Before we organize the freezer, talk about stocking the freezer, and make several meals from it, let's first talk about preparing food for the freezer. One really great category to make ahead for the freezer is bread items. Things like bagels, pizza dough, pie crust. There are some tips to actually making this easy on yourself. For me, the hardest thing about a meal from the freezer is that you have to let it thaw out. If I have a bagel in the freezer that hasn't been pre-sliced, I have to pull it out the night before so I can get a knife through it and get it in my toaster. If I have a ball of pizza dough, I'm going to have to get that in the fridge the night before so that I can then roll it out and use it. Same goes for pie crust. Not that this is a deal breaker. You can definitely make a bunch of things ahead, let them ferment if you're doing sourdough, get them in the freezer, and then the night before, when you think, what am I going to make for lunch or dinner tomorrow? Putting it in the fridge, not a big step, but usually if I'm pulling something from the freezer, it's because I'm not prepared in any other way for a meal, and I need it to be something I can literally grab and make in just a few moments. If it's going to be convenient, that's what it's going to have to be. So my tips for this is to get them to the point where you can take them out of the freezer, throw them on a baking sheet or in the toaster. For bagels, this means going through the entire recipe all the way through baking, slicing them in half, and then putting them in the freezer bag so you can just pop them apart, put them in a toaster, and use them. For pizzas, this involves rolling them out and par baking them. Par baking is key so the dough doesn't shrink back, but they're not all the way baked so that they don't overbake when adding toppings. I also roll out pie crust and freeze them. I learned this trick recently and I shared it in a recent video. I actually put them down into the pie plate and flash freeze them so they have the shape of the pie plate, so I can just add my filling, and then I also freeze some that are flat so I can add that on top. I'll show you later when I make a chicken pot pie. As far as stocking the freezer, some things that I like to keep a lot of: frozen fruit, frozen vegetables. Even in the summertime, there are still times when you're in a pinch and you want to bulk a meal up. Grabbing a bag of frozen veggies or frozen beans is a great option. For beans, I will cook dried beans and put them in Ziploc bags and freeze them. You can also make large quantities of pizza sauce with fresh tomatoes from the garden. Get them into serving sizes that you think you'll use at one time so that it can be easily thawed out in hot water and you don't thaw out too much, and freeze them. Of course, I stock so much meat. This is the base of all of our meals. We get one whole cow per year and a pig and lots of chickens. To be well stocked in that area means I always have something to pull from to pull together a recipe. Today I'm using some soup bones from the freezer to make beef stew. Of course, you can get frozen vegetables that have carrots, garlic, and onions, so if you need to make this even faster, keep yourself stocked with those things. I keep these in the refrigerator at all times. There's always onions in there, carrots, and garlic and potatoes because they don't go bad too quickly anyway. They're a very sturdy vegetable, and we can keep large quantities to bulk up things like this. Of course, they're delicious in everything. The best tool that I have found for cooking from the freezer is the Instant Pot, because if your meat is completely frozen, all you have to do is be able to get it out of the package and into the Instant Pot, and it will be tender and delicious in very short order if you use the Instant Pot. Now, I still prefer almost all of my meats to be thawed out and to prepare them in other ways. So for example, you can make chicken in the Instant Pot, and in this video later, I do make chicken in the Instant Pot. But I actually prefer when I've thawed ahead and I can actually bake it in the oven with some oil and salt to give it that crispy skin and the nice juicy interior. There are certain recipes that lend themselves better to Instant Pot chicken, and it's just nice knowing that you can rely on that. If you completely forget to set anything out, you have zero plan, all you have to do is to get your meat out of the package, which typically will require just putting it in a hot water bath. So I fill either a pot or a large bowl up with hot water, throw the whole chicken or the soup bones or whatever it may be into that water, and then it will thaw enough, at least on the outer layer, to be able to cut the packaging away pretty darn fast. I have some homemade bone broth here. That's another thing that you can make ahead and get in the freezer. I have frozen it in glass jars. You just have to be sure to not fill the jars up all the way so they don't crack when it expands, of course. I really like Ziploc bags. I know that microplastics are a trending topic, and I agree. We don't want to expose ourselves to that. So I'm making bone broth fresh when I can and not freezing it. But it's also nice and a great compromise to have things you can rely on in the freezer. So yes, it's not ideal taste-wise to cook something from frozen. It maybe isn't ideal to use all frozen vegetables. It's really not bad, but it tastes better fresh. It's maybe not ideal to pop out some homemade bone broth of a Ziploc bag, but it sure is better than eating out. And so I like to have options in my kitchen so that we can handle whatever busy schedule we might encounter. I stock and prep and plan to cook from scratch, whether it's from our freezer, our pantry, or all from fresh, because I know that quality food promotes better health, more active lifestyles. That's why I want to tell you about today's video sponsor, Armra Colostrum. I personally love to add Armra Colostrum to my daily smoothie or chocolate milk. I usually will add some bananas or honey, plus milk and yogurt, and Armra Colostrum because of all of the health benefits. And it's not a supplement, it's a whole food, which I love because you know that you're supporting your body in a way that it will understand, and it'll be bioavailable and usable nutrition. For me, being able to add something nutrient rich to a morning smoothie or drink simplifies my wellness routine, gives the boost I need and the energy for the day ahead. I love that Armra Colostrum helps to optimize my microbiome and strengthen the gut wall barrier, which is the body's first line of defense against environmental threats that trigger common digestion symptoms like bloating and heartburn. It also strengthens the skin barrier and activates your body's own stem cell collagen production to improve skin elasticity, increase hydration, and combat age-related changes. I'm always looking for something that's going to help my skin. Armra Colostrum is grass-fed, made in the USA, non-GMO, and certified glyphosate free, so it checks all the boxes for me. Armra also removes the compounds that humans don't need, like casein and fat, and improves bioavailability. Cold chain biopotent pasteurization technology is Armra's proprietary low heat process that protects all of the nutrients. Armra is currently running their Memorial Day sale between the 23rd and the 26th, which gives 20% off new and returning customers. You can check out that sale by using my link, tryarmra.com/farmhouse on Boone, and discount code farmhouse on Boone. I'll also leave it linked in the description box below. Don't worry if you do miss the Memorial Day sale and you haven't yet checked out Armra. New customers only can get 15% off with that link and code. Again, thank you so much, Armra, for sponsoring today's video. When making a meal primarily from the freezer, one way to jazz it up and make it taste better and fresh is to add something fresh, something like chopped fresh parsley, or even just some sour cream and shredded cheese. Really freshens it up. I'm all about the toppings. Lately especially, I've been pulling so many things out with every meal. A sliced jalapeno, some sauerkraut, some chopped fresh parsley, a sliced avocado, red pepper flakes, arugula. I just throw all this stuff on the table and you can kind of jazz up whatever we're having. Usually the kids don't, but Luke, myself, the older kids, we like to add all the things to something that maybe is just kind of like, you know, like beef stew. It's so delicious, so comforting, and it's a great way to use up soup bones and stew meat, but not everybody's absolute favorite meal in the whole wide world. But then you add on those little fresh things. It's just so much more exciting. I took a chicken today and threw it in the Instant Pot with a cup of water, put it in there for 1 hour. Now, if it's fully frozen, you'll need to put it in there a little bit longer for it to be cooked all the way through and to be nice and tender. At least that's my experience. I've read things that say 1 hour, but I find it needs to go a little bit longer. This one had been sitting in the fridge for a few days, so it was already more thawed out. But when I'm making chicken pot pie, I'm not worried about having a roasted chicken. It's actually easier to pull the chicken from the bone in the Instant Pot and throw it into a chicken pot pie than it is to bake it. So this is actually my preferred method when making a chicken pot pie. I'm going to show you how I use my pie crust. So like I said, I froze them, flash froze them in pie plates, and then nested them And then I also froze some flat pieces as well. I'm going to put my chicken pot pie filling right inside of them, already frozen. They'll just have to bake for a few extra minutes than usual, but I'm avoiding tonight having to mix up pie dough, get it in the fridge so it can cool, so I can roll it out really nicely. I'm skipping all that. And a chicken pot pie filling can really be made all from the freezer if you need it. You can cook a chicken directly from the freezer. You can pull out some frozen mixed vegetables and just make a little gravy, a little cream and broth gravy with some flour and some salt. Throw that together and put it in your pie crust. It's a quick, comforting meal. Of course, reserve those chicken bones in a freezer bag to make homemade bone broth. I've been collecting together a bunch of them in a freezer bag so I can make a really full batch all at one time. One of my best tips for freezer cooking is fast thawing meats. 1 pound packages of ground beef or ground sausage can thaw out completely all the way through in hot water. Unlike chicken and roast that I like to just get the plastic off, put it in the Instant Pot, I can actually get the beef thawed almost all the way through. And even if you don't, you can still break it up pretty easily in a pot so that I can brown it easily in a meal. I've been getting my meat from a local farm of some kind. It's changed which farms over the years. Right now it's my sister who's the farmer, which is great. But in the past, I made the mistake of getting my ground meats in 2 pound packages because I have a large family. So I know that we're going to use at least 2, 3, sometimes 4 pounds of meat, depending on what we are having. And so I thought 2 pounds. But having your freezer well stocked with 1 pound packages so that they're easy and quick to thaw out is so crucial, because when you get a whole cow, half a cow, a side of beef, you're going to end up with a whole lot of ground beef, and it's a way to pull together a meal fast from the freezer. To this ground beef and onions, I also added some frozen black beans and some frozen corn. Again, both things that we like to stock in the freezer. Soup is such a great freezer meal option because you could have bulk prepared frozen broth, frozen veggies, frozen ground beef, and still have dinner on the table in a reasonable amount of time. I also threw in some canned tomatoes, and then I'm topping mine with shredded cheese, jalapenos, cilantro, and sour cream. So all the fresh things to jazz up a frozen meal. We had some leftover frozen ham from Easter. I have the pizza crust that I par-baked and froze. So what better option today than some pineapple ham pizza? So good. I left pineapple off a few of the pizzas because I thought, I don't know if all the kids would like pineapple on their pizza, but I really ended up regretting that because everybody wanted it on there, and I definitely prefer pineapple on a ham pizza. You can see how easily this meal comes together with these par-baked pizza crust. I also have some homemade pizza sauce that I froze in individual size Ziploc bags so they can fit right in a pot and be melted down. This is truly, if you have some time in your kitchen someday to make up a whole bunch of pizza crust, to roll them out, to do a quick par-bake, stack them up and freeze them, you can make any type of pizza with whatever toppings you have, as long as you have some cheese in your fridge, which we always do. Some people also shred cheese and freeze it, so you could do that as well. But again, I think cheese is one of those things that just keep a lot of it because it doesn't go bad very quickly and it's easy to shred it up really quick. We're trying to save the time on the things that you actually have to think ahead on. So making a sourdough pizza crust, allowing it the time to ferment, get that all done at once, and then any time you need a quick meal, take whatever random toppings you have in your refrigerator and make up a super, super quick dinner. Another thing that is great to freeze is sourdough tortillas or whole wheat tortillas or whatever homemade tortillas you want to make. I prefer sourdough whole wheat personally, but any kind of tortilla that you make from scratch will of course have less ingredients, will be less expensive, and they can easily be stored away in stacks in the freezer. If you need a super fast dinner, you don't have any minutes for them to thaw out, you can put them in the oven to warm up. Tonight I'm making some buffalo chicken wraps with them. Well, I hope that you gained some tips for using your freezer to keep yourself prepared for a from scratch meal, even at a moment's notice. Right now, it's almost summertime. There are plenty of times where we are out and about until super late because it stays light and beautiful, and I just need something quick and easy to throw together.